So here we are, sharing secrets of the soil with me, your host, Regen Ray. Hello, soil lovers. Regen Ray here from Secrets of the Soil. Welcome to another episode. Today, we are going to be hanging out with Asher. You may remember his name because he was also on episode 27. And in that one, we covered why encouraging kids is important to engage with nature. And Asher has been on the movement and increasing that. So can you explain to everyone what you've been up to and what Life Rocks is all about?
Yeah, g'day Ray. Awesome to be here again. And at Life Rocks, basically, we're all about childhood education and development. But as we know, nature and the earth is our evolutionary home and where we all came from. And it's really keeping our engagement with those environments, our connection to nature healthy, and our understanding of the living world strong with our children and our families. And so Life Rocks is really about reinforcing that culture at every front. What's the media that we're giving to children? What's the educational material? What are they being connected to? What are they learning about? What's the information that families have? All of this needs to be geared towards proper childhood development, which happens in healthy, clean, natural environments, and lots of time spent engaging with healthy, clean, natural environments. So yeah, that's basically what we do. And we're a not-for-profit. We were started by a geologist, John Rowntree, who decided that he wanted to give back to the earth by sharing earth sciences with children, because if children can connect to earth sciences, they'll develop a love and a passion for the world, and then they'll feel like they fit in the world and they have a place to be and something to protect and look after. So we focus on passion, discovery, curiosity, excitement as the ways of engagement, as opposed to fear or challenges or problems or environmental issues, which are all real and happening. But the more that we shove them in the face of children, the less that they want to interact with the world, which is so full, so amazing, so beautiful. If we focus on that, children develop a strong enough connection so that by the time they're autonomous enough to make their own decisions, use their own willpower in the world, they make good decisions for themselves and the environment. So that's really the foundation of Life Rocks. And we are out there teaching in schools, sharing earth science education programs around soils, geology, oceans, nature and art connection. And then we're also developing products like our beautiful soil book and beautiful soil board game, and Soils Discovery Kit, which we're launching this year. And we've just launched our promo version of it, which is a small one for homeschoolers. And then we've got a Life Rocks Kids TV channel. So yes, kids are on way too much media, but this media encourages them to get outside, encourages them to do things, encourages them to learn about soils, connects to role models and connects to superheroes that are based around the earth. Just like, we think back to Captain Planet. Well, Life Rocks is doing the new live version of Captain Planet that's connected to holistic earth sciences. So, and then we've also got our podcast for adults and educators, where that's all, what's the science on childhood development? What's the holistic health science that families need to know? How do we communicate to our children? How do we run really rocking earth science classes? And we're doing all of this stuff.
Love it. I guess you don't get to sleep much, but that's a good thing because you seem very, very busy, but working on some really amazing things. I love the Captain Planet reference there because, that's one that I think has been lost. Everyone's gone down the Marvel and the DC superheroes, but, there is this one that I grew up with as well, caring for Earth and cleaning, bringing pollution back to zero. And we've kind of forgotten about these superheroes, and we can be that in our own backyard. But I love the diversity of focusing like at school level, kids, board game, book. I've bought the books. My niece and nephew have copies of that. Anything we can do to encourage that curiosity. But what got you into this space? Like, why did you kind of want to be a champion of this, and make it kind of your life work at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think for me, I had a diverse range of schooling experiences, from being in a school in Sydney and then a public school in a really rough area of Campbelltown, then to a really nourishing, beautiful Steiner school in the country. And then that closed down and I went back to a public school. It was like concrete jungle. And then I got in trouble with kids there. And then I went back to a Chevalier College, which is a good Catholic school. So I had this diverse range of education. I really didn't like some of it and I really liked some of it. And some of the most influential experiences I had throughout that education process all happened on nature camps that were at Steiner. They were pivotal initiation events for me in my life that changed my life. And then also I was a very sick child. So I had a lot of chronic health conditions right from the age of 3 or 4, chronic full body eczema, asthma. I was overweight. I had a lot of mood issues. And then by the time I was 20-ish, it was like diagnosed thyroid condition. And I really needed to figure out my health. Like if I didn't figure out my own health journey, I would have been maybe not here today, definitely not here today. But as in I was so sick that unless I did something, I would have been in hospital or not in a good way. So basically I turned to holistic health. I turned to studying soil science and gut health and thyroid medicine and metabolic energy medicine. And I looked at every single thing out there under the realm of holistic health that could help me turn around my conditions, which I did. And I have been a healthy, happy, vibrant, energetic young man since about 23, once I sort of wrapped my head around the main pieces of it. And since then I've been teaching. And then along the way of that journey, once I was pretty much working as a health coach, I was running a permaculture gardening crew and we were planting out native forests and food forests and doing gardens and all that sort of stuff. And I was running those 2 jobs. I met a geologist, John Roundtree, the founder of Life Rocks. And he said, "Hey, Asher, you seem to know quite a bit about soils. How about you make us a kit for these kids?" He's a Canadian. And I went, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I did. And I turned around, I gave him a prototype and he said, "You're young, I'm old. You got the company now. I'm just going to be an advisor and help to fund you." So John is an amazing person. And that was core to my vision as a young man. So by the time I was 20, I realized I wanted to make a big impact in the world, something to do with giving back to the child within me that didn't have all of the tools, didn't have the connection to nature straight away, enforced the things that really, were potent on my journey. I want to give that back to the world. And I decided I'm going to focus on the knowledge. The knowledge is what is most important. My motto was knowledge is wealth and the wealth will follow the knowledge. And I always had it in my head, I'm going to meet someone one day who's got more of the wealth things sorted so that we can pair up and we can team up with the same mission, which is let's help the children of this earth have a better, more connected, more healthy life and help the teachers and the families out there that are trying to do it right, do it as best as they can, because let's face it, parents and teachers are under pressure like never before.
Yeah. And
we're all participating in the raising of children as a culture because children emulate everything that's around them, not just their parents and teachers, everything, everyone, all the time. And it takes a village to raise a child. So that's my story. That's how come I got into it. And that's why I'm still here.
Love that. And I think it's such a great way to, you've been around the different schooling education systems, because not a lot of people get that taste of all the different. So they don't I never got to experience Steiner, but in reflection of hearing people who have gone through that form of education, I kind of wish I did, and so you've mentioned nature camps. And I think that's also, something that most people probably don't really understand what happens. What happens at nature camp? Can you relive a little bit of those memories and what that did for your growing mindset?
Yeah, wow. I think the teachers at Steiner get given the training and the understanding that every child has a soul, and the soul isn't and doesn't have to be some woo-woo mystical thing, other than it means that every individual has their own willpower, their own ability to decide in life, and their own experiences that then shape them and those desires moving forwards. And a Steiner teacher recognizes that soul, that willfulness, that essence of each individual child, and decidedly allows it to flourish without too much interference, because they don't have this top-down model of child safety is the most important thing, which it is, but within a context of some amount of risk is actually important for childhood development. So in the playground, they would let us build forts out of wood chips. They would let us climb trees. They would let us make forts out of wood and throw rocks at each other, if wood chips at each other, maybe not rocks. They had orchard wars with apples, pegging apples at each other. And then on camps, they were always designed with some sort of physical challenge. So maybe we had to canoe like 8 Ks up a river when we were 13. Maybe we had to do some sort of competition, like we had this Greek Olympics among all the Steiner schools and we had to compete against each other. Maybe we had to go skiing and learn skiing. There was caving in year 8 where they made us go through these crazy tiny little tunnels. And it was these moments of challenge where, we're out in nature, it's hard, or someone has a breakdown, or, and I slept in this cave overnight. And whenever I'd get away from home for too long, I'd always get sick. Like I'd start throwing up. But it was these cathartic moments that I always remember as turning points where I decided as a young person, I'm like, I'm here now. I don't like these feelings, but I'm going to go here. And I made decisions that were important for my life, like to really focus on my fitness back then. Cause I was a really, really overweight 13-year-old. So there was a pivotal moment. We went on a school camp. We climbed a mountain, and sleeping in the cave in the mountain, I decided tomorrow I'm going to do triple the amount of exercise I've ever done in my life. I went home, bought weights, and I've been a gym, fitness guy ever since, training martial arts and all of that stuff. But yeah.
So that's so cool. They say that it's in nature when you have those kind of pinnacle, epiphanies.
Yeah, it is so true. They've done studies on people's memories and what they associate as like peak moments in their life. 90% of these peak moments happen outdoors, people. They're not happening inside while you're sitting on the couch. They're happening while you're outdoors doing cool stuff and living life. And I think it's because the natural environment is so stimulating for us. Our nervous system is firing on all levels.
Yeah. And then you fast forward, or not fast forward, but you transition into the other system where it is no nature play. There is no outdoors. It's square rooms on square desks with your stuff stored in square lockers.
Yep.
And that whole, thinking outside the box doesn't really happen in a traditional education scene, and even a work scene. We're looking at each other on square screens, through a square camera, like everything's so square and in a box, and through this digital world. And so when you hang out with people across adulthood and child, like what are some of the things that you notice that's different from people who have that exposure to nature play and the outdoors, and that different biomes in the air and the earth? Like what are some of the things that you can notice? Maybe it's a feeling, maybe it's physical. Like why can you tell when someone's had access to nature play or not?
Yes, so much so. And I think children are one of the best barometers for this of all, because not only does the research point towards the fact that even an hour of free nature time in a wild environment, we're not talking just a football field now of clipped grass, but an hour of free nature time in a wild environment reduces ADD symptoms in problematic children 95% of the time, down to being out of the ADD spectrum.
Wow.
So think about this. If we gave children an hour of outdoor time, free play, before we took them to the doctors to say, my child's got ADD, do they? Or do they have a nature deficit disorder is the term coined by Richard Louv there. So, he's a leader of the child nature movement. But essentially, I think characteristics of people who have spent more time in nature, whether it's recently or whether they have a lifelong habit of doing this stuff, is they're more grounded. Their brain isn't running left, right, and everywhere, and they have a deeper connection to their own center. So they're not getting pulled out in all of these directions all the time. The nervous system's more regulated. There's a more natural gratitude and appreciation for the small things, like, oh, look at that flower. Oh, look at that sunset. There's less fear in the system around certain things like bugs or temperature or bad weather or accidents. There's a bit more resiliency. So all of these things get built up in nature because we're not in control of the environment. Like, we can't hit the temperature control. Like, we're not in control of the wind. We're not in control of the bugs. They're just forces of nature that we have to learn how to work with. And I think that creates a sense of humility as well, because we see ourselves as more of a part of nature when we're in nature. But if we're always inside and we're always just on the social media, on the TV channels, soaking up different YouTube videos and stuff, yeah, it's not really how we were meant to live. Like, it's fun and we've got so much beautiful information that can really enrich our lives, but it's got to be held by the context of nature. I think it's got to be grounded by all that outdoor time. So that's what I see in children, adults, everyone.
Yeah, I think that curiosity, that ability to be okay with the fact that the world and nature is random and we don't have control. I think being locked up indoors, as you said, like with a climate control switch, with the ability to open and close a window, with the ability to throw a blanket on top, we are raised in this method of like, we can just fix every problem that happens. And then you go into nature and we don't have that. And so you have to just rough it out. And within that roughing out, you build resilience, you build different problem solving, you program different, neurological pathways in your brain, and a lot of inventions have come from nature. I always think of Velcro, it was invented by someone who looked at the seed, the things that get stuck to your socks, and Velcro was created from that. And lots of other things, we see patterns in nature and they solve problems in our physical industrial age of problem solving. So there are a lot of answers in nature and by looking outdoors. Do you think to some degree the system has designed people like this? Do you think there's an intention between, or do you think it's just easy to put people in a room, learn the same curriculum, don't worry about homeschooling, like the parents go off to work, because I think a lot of people would think that go, oh, well, nature play sounds amazing, but I don't have time, or I don't have money, or we're following the bouncing ball. What do you say to that kind of thinking?
I think let's think about rewinding the clock on the education system, and that even 40 years ago, most children spent most of their days outside. And then the advent of handheld digital devices that are wireless and have streaming information to them has enabled the everyday mainstream person to literally invert that chart completely, to having 8 hours of day is on the screen as an average. So is the culture set up for it? Yes, they are pushing everyone in the direction of more screen time, less human contact, more living at home, getting everything delivered to you. And theoretically, those conveniences could lead to us having more time to spend in nature doing awesome, passionate activities. But typically, only people who are seriously autonomous, willful, or know that they should be disciplining themselves towards pursuing things that are more nourishing to their human organism will do that. And then most people will end up, spending a lot more time on screens, but it's not a good thing. And during the COVID era, I don't think it's any coincidence that Microsoft had all of those shares in Zoom and also all of the medical stuff, because they were so set up to have everyone just chatting away on all of the applications throughout that era. And then some of the same big tech companies I see coming in to push iPads into preschools, even when the World Health Organization has said that children under the age of 6 should have 0 hours of screen time. I don't know how many parents out there are sticking to that. I don't think the World Health Organization has heaps of good things to say, but that's one of them. And that screen time is not good for a child's development under the age of 6 at all. None, 0. Like, you can't argue with it. So the culture is pushing more screen time. That is working against all of our development. And yeah, we literally have to counter it by supercharging our connection with nature so that we can live in both worlds. Because here we are, like, this is so awesome. My whole business, Life Rocks, the not-for-profit, everything that we do can only happen because of this realm, and it all gets amplified because of this digital realm.
Yeah.
But I really think that we need to show children the right example of how to use this media. And if we're all just numbing out on different entertainment things and different games and stuff, well, we're not going to expect the generation coming up to have more of a connection to nature unless we're connecting to nature and cultivating it.
Yeah, love that. That is a great point to take a pause on. Soil lovers, stick with us as we take a quick break. Hey there, soil lovers. Did you know that there is now a digital agency that is committed and dedicated to soil caring businesses? Maybe it's you, or maybe you know someone who's really looking after our soils and they need to reach more customers. Well, finally, there is a marketing agency dedicated to soil caring businesses. They are soilconnect.com.au. In fact, it's one of my own businesses. I saw a need in the marketplace for a company that was good at marketing and digital, but also loved soil. Well, connecting those two interests together, I got Soil Connect. So head on over to the website and see what services we can help you with in order to amplify your soil caring activities. All right, enough from me. Back to the show. Welcome back, soil lovers. You're hanging out with Regen Ray and Asher from Life Rocks. Before the break, we were talking about the fact that, the culture is disconnecting us from nature. And so it's now more than ever that we have to put like some conscious awareness to get people out into nature. You've mentioned also the word earth science before the break, and I want to go a little bit deeper into that. So we probably know from school, like science and, physics and psychology and all that, but what to you is earth science? And can you unpack that a little bit more and thread in some things that people can do to get their kids out into this earth science a little bit more as you explain it as well?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, to all you soil lovers, you're all soil scientists in your own way, in your own citizen science way. And that is the best way, because that's the science that we can control and connect to. So when I say earth science, I mean literally what is the science of the earth? And that includes tides, that includes seasons, that includes soils, that includes forests, that includes oceans, that includes volcanoes, fossils, crystals, metals, trees, plants, you name it. If it's on Earth or it's to do with the cycles of Earth, that's earth sciences. It also includes planets. It also includes space rocks and all of that stuff. If it's in the material universe, that has been here by nature, that's earth sciences. Now, life sciences is the study of human types of science. So we'd talk about reproductive habits. We'd talk about, cars being engineered. Like, that's life sciences, material sciences. We're talking about more technologies and that sort of thing. But really, I think that earth sciences are the foundation of what science truly is, because all other sciences have come from the study of nature and we've extrapolated out materials from that. So when I learned that our gut is literally made up of microorganisms and that 90% of our DNA comes from microorganisms, that we are a host for all of these symbiotic creatures, and that our health is intimately connected to our gut, and that the health of our food is intimately connected to the health of the soil, this, I thought, well, this must be the most important earth science that there is soils, because it's sort of fundamental to so many of the things and processes that the human body experiences. So that led me to be very curious in general about all of the earth sciences. And it's been a lifelong passion for me as a child. I think many children out there want to be a marine biologist at some point. It's kind of like one of the archetypal science career paths. But to be honest, there is so many amazing, passionate careers that you can find in the sciences that aren't necessarily marine biology. And a lot of marine biologists end up becoming photographers and ocean photographers and stuff like this. So one of the earth scientists that we just interviewed, he ended up becoming a studying cold ocean seabirds, and he has saved millions of lives of seabirds because he studied their flight patterns, and he discovered that the albatross dive down about 2.8 meters on average. So they set the length at which the nets are underwater through the weight of the sinker to now 3 meters. So now none of the seabirds get caught up in the nets, and he saved millions of birds, this one guy, just through observation of the natural world. And these are the stories that Life Rocks wants to put up on our podcast, and does. World's youngest dinosaur hunter, who's found Canada's most insane T-Rex and Albertosaurus fossils from the age of 7 years old. Yeah. We've got people saving the burrowing owl, which is a soil-dwelling owl from the Calgary Zoo over in Canada as well. So these are some of the guests we've had on the podcast, because I'm really passionate about sharing. Like, science is so amazing. We can do so many beautiful things, and the realm of possibilities goes so much further than just marine biologists, which is the trope that most kids are getting, because it's sort of like the limited view of the science world. It's like, no, you don't have to end up in a lab studying petri dishes. You can do whatever you want.
And I think you make a great point there with this, ageism that happens, I guess. Like, people feel like they can only make a difference once they're qualified. But I think it's really the curiosity of the young mind. And I honestly believe that, like, if we allow people to just be curious, wondering creatures at younger ages, that a lot of problems will be solved, because it's the adult conditioning that stops us from thinking big and thinking magical and thinking, that anything is possible. But the young minds really still have that, fantasy, and that everything is possible. And I think that's where a lot of those solutions happen. And the fact that you mentioned this story about a 7-year-old who's discovering things that people who have studied half their life can't even discover is just testament to that. It's just evidence. And I think cool. we need to channel that. There's 7-year-olds, YouTubers making content that dumbs the nation, but we could have them outside, creating all these new, wonderful, amazing things, So I think that young, the whole thing that you need to be qualified, and like you said, have a lab with a lab coat looking at things on, in dishes, is not really what most of those people wanted to do when they decided to do that, So very valid points.
Yeah, so beautiful what you've said there, Ray, especially about the essence of childhood is that it's unlimited imagination, unlimited possibility. And as we go through life as adults, we realize, it's hard to do that, or it's going to take a lot of effort, or maybe so all these people told me that I can't do it, or someone poo-hooed me. We shut these dreams down. We shut them down. But why? Like, what's life all about if not going for it and putting those doubters and those fears on the side and saying, yeah, maybe next life, guys, like, I'm here to do something cool.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. You've mentioned a lot about gut health and the biome in our guts. And I think, that is definitely a soft spot for me as well, because as I've gone down this wonderful world of soil, that's something that I've really realized is that, our gut biome is the quality of the environment we are in, the people we hang out, sharing the biome through hugs and then you think about COVID, where we weren't even allowed close to people. You think, what has that done, to our biome? And it's one of the reasons why I'm heading back to Melbourne, listening to a lot of things with Zach Bush. He talks a lot about, the biome that you're born into, and there's something about, being spiritually connected to your hometown, which is why people always go back home and feel, homely, and something just
Yeah.
feels right when you visit your hometown. And maybe it's got to do a lot more with like the local biomes that we're inoculated with from birth. And so heading back to Melbourne for that particular reason, or one of the like cherry on top of like, yes, let's do that. But gut biome, I think, is this untapped world, and you've mentioned it several times. So can you just unpack a little bit about gut biome and what that means to you, and the importance of that, and why kids in nature need to get their biome inoculated at a younger age?
Totally. So the uterus is a sterile, mostly sterile environment. And the first interaction with the microbiome that a child gets is from the mother's vaginal fluids. So if a cesarean birth is happening, the population of this gut microbiome isn't taking place. And scientists have discovered, medical people have figured this out in the past 10 years, and now it is common practice to swab the vaginal fluid and inoculate the child if a cesarean has gone on. I think that's an interesting fact, because it's interesting to see the mainstream catching up to the microbiome's importance in providing the initial immune system for that child, because until then, the immune system's not really in place. And then it's the breast milk, which has a higher content than of carbohydrates in the initial breast milk, that feeds that bacterial microbiome. It has prebiotic substances that then grows that over time. So right from the offset, we need to start building that up. But here's the thing. Modern probiotics that are grown in labs, we have only studied maybe 1,000 different types of probiotics, and we're growing a bunch of them in labs. We're growing them for store stability, shelf life stability, temperature stability. So these strains aren't grown in an animal's gut. So they're actually not suited to being in an animal's gut. And they're more like monoculture cropping our own gut by taking lots of these singular, maybe 1-2 strain type probiotic supplements. So that's something I'd say about the whole probiotic movement, is it's usually mostly a load of garbage, and that we should be focused on food-based probiotics that are cultured naturally, because then the multiplicity of strains that we get, A, have come from nature, so are more suited to our environment, B, have more complexity to them because they weren't singularly chosen and grown in a lab, and B, are a culinary delight and something that we can participate in to make our lifestyle better and our palate more advanced. So I think kombucha grown on real sugar is really great. It provides acetic acid, which is great to feed probiotics and beneficial microbes in the gut. We could do small amounts of sauerkraut and make our own sauerkraut out of cabbage. We could make our own kefir. But I'd beware, if you're buying store-bought versions of probiotics, make sure that they don't have heaps of added lactobacillus. Make sure the kombucha is made on real sugar, not erythritol, or it's producing lactic acid producing bacteria, not acetic acid producing bacteria, which is bad for the gut. So lots of nuances in this space, but I would say here's 2 tactics that your audience can take away and do for their microbiome. One is eat a raw carrot every day, peel it, and just either chew down the raw carrot, grate it, mix in a little bit of olive oil, some salt, a little bit of vinegar. But this is not like going to feed you. This is a toothbrush for your bowel. We need non-soluble fiber moving through the gut to pull out bacteria, yeasts, different food particles. So that's one thing, the raw carrot salad, or just eat a raw carrot a day. Another thing is cut up some pieces of fruit, a little bit of apple, a little bit of orange, some grapes, maybe a bit of papaya with the skin on. I cut about a cup up and put that in another cup of water inside a mason jar. So you've got 1 cup of fruit, 1 cup of maybe 1 to 2 cups of water, a teaspoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. Stir that up, put on a cheesecloth or a tea towel, and put that in your backyard for 3 days. You're capturing natural environmental yeasts, probiotics in your local biozone, and you're also using the probiotics that live on the skins of the fruit that you eat naturally in your diet. So now you're creating a probiotic that's based around the microbes that already digest the foods that you're trying to eat and already live in your natural environment. And that's going to give you a boost. And that's, you can make your own probiotics are way, way better than anything bought in a store, hands down.
And a lot of the store stuff has to be like pasteurized and go through all this food processing stuff. It's like literally reversing the positive side of it all, which just blows my mind. The red tape and the bureaucracy. You know, my grandmother cooked in her garage for decades and no one ever got sick. And then, you know, we bring out all these stainless steel commercial kitchens that send small producers broke because the red tape and the hurdles to jump over is just beyond all means. But yeah, anyway, being, you know, doing stuff in your own backyard, being responsible, you know, that is such a great takeaway. And I can only imagine like what else is, you know, in the Life Rocks TV and in your podcast and, you know, in the Discovery Kit. So how do people hang out more with the Life Rocks and the amazing content that you've been producing, creating, and we will plan to do in the future?
Cool. So we're pretty much everywhere at this stage, and we've got a few different channels going on. So if you want to access the kids content, Kids TV, Life Rocks Kids TV on YouTube, highly curated, all quest-based, all educational. Our latest episode, we went to a grass-fed cow farm where they have a portable cow tractor and they're making worm juice and they're doing all the right things. Happy cows. Super awesome episode. If you want to tune in to the Life Rocks podcast where we talk stuff about educators and we interview people in the sciences and science advocates. This is for teachers. This is for parents to learn more about childhood development and earth science education and how they can implement that. That's the Life Rocks podcast. And then I'm splitting up my health coaching now, and that's Life Rocks Health Coaching is another channel. So that's where all of the holistic lifestyle coaching information is on there. I do that specifically. I'm a very candid talker when I come to the health stuff. And that's basically our three main channels. You can go to liferocks.school and see everything that's going on in our shop. And we are releasing our soil kit this year, which is fully linked to the Australian curriculum for preschool through to year 6. It's great for homeschoolers. It's great for educators. And if people do have a school or a homeschool group and they're looking for a custom experience, we might have some local ambassadors in your area. We've got some in North Sydney. We've got some in Melbourne. I travel around a bit. And we do stuff for schools and homeschool groups and holiday programs and that sort of thing. But yeah, if you want to stay tuned to basically everything Life Rocks, liferocks.school on Instagram is a good one-stop shop.
Amazing. That is so good. Are you now ready to become the voice of the soil?
I'd love to, soil lovers. Let's go.
Excellent. You are now the soil. You've embodied its energy and you are its mouthpiece. What will you say to all the soil lovers and not yet soil lovers above the ground?
I'd say that it's time to take more responsibility for where we tread in life and to take responsibility for the way that we grow and the way that those are growing around us, and realize that there is no separation. We're all in this ecosystem together. We're all connected spiritually and physically, and that's really no difference. And that if we all had transparent skin and we could see what was going on in our bodies, or the ground was transparent and that all the tiny organisms were actually a little bit bigger, so that we could see them, then we would be more caring, we would be more loving, and we would be better to ourselves and better to the planet. But we're in this funny situation where everything's made of contrast and we can't see what's underneath our skin and we can't see what's in the soil, but we've got to believe. And we've got to trust and we've got to know that there is a brighter future out there, but we've got to participate to get there. So let's go. Let's go.
Let's do it. I love that. I think that is really important. You know, we are at a time where we need to take responsibility. I wouldn't say we're at crossroads, but we're at a time in that history where we can go different ways. And I think coming together, reconnecting, you know, to everything, our neighbors, our neighborhood, our community, our soils, our food system, this word reconnecting to all these systems that over the decades we've become very disconnected, by accident, by design. Doesn't matter. Like, that is the truth of the reality. And how do we reconnect? And I know soul lovers listening to this podcast will be, kind of so keen to get to know more about how they can hang out with you. So all the links that you mentioned before and many, many more, because you've given me a bucket load of resources and stuff, they will be around this video if you're watching on YouTube or on your podcast show notes. So make sure that you click them and check it all out. Final thought, you've said here in your little bio, why children, and I'm going to say why children and adults need dirt time. So can you leave us with that as a final thought for the soul lovers?
Yeah, I think that we need dirt time just simply because no one's getting it anymore. And that could mean so many things. For me, I think that you've got to go and learn that stuff. Whether you're out, you can go and plant some trees, whether you need to take your child outside and build a mud fort, whether you need to go and sit in the wood for a few days by yourself, whether you need to go and do something hard in nature, climb a mountain, do something. But it's that challenge, and it's that challenge in nature that forges literally who we are and the characters that we have. And so I encourage everyone, try to pick something this year where you can get dirt time that's meaningful for you where you're at.
Yeah, love that. Spending that time outside. Well, that's definitely been the theme of this episode. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your passion and your wisdom and all the gold that you have. And I can't wait to see the curriculum unfold and be embedded into schools right across the world, really. But at the end of the day, let's not leave it to the school systems. Education starts in our own backyard. So if you're a parent out there, or you're an auntie and uncle, or someone who has kids around them, or adults, because I don't think it's ever too late to learn this stuff. Let's activate the inner child in us all as well. And let's all have dirt time. And that's why, very much about, don't act your age, act your passion. And, that's the important thing is that let's let our creative juices keep solving these problems and getting us more and more connected with soil.
Totally right. And I'm so grateful for the show and the presence that you hold for the community of soil lovers and everything that you do out there. And you're a great example of leading by that passion. So yeah, thanks for having me along, and thanks soil lovers for listening.
Excellent. There you go, soil lovers. Well, make sure you check out the links, and until next time, get outside, get your hands dirty, and keep digging deeper into the wonderful world of soil. Make sure you get your dose of dirt time today. Well, soil lovers, that's enough secrets for one episode. I really hope that you enjoyed all the secrets shared during this conversation. But hey, let's not keep it a secret. Please share this podcast around and make sure that you like it and leave us a review, because that really helps spread the secrets of the soil. Until next time, remember, get outside, get your hands dirty, and keep digging deeper into your soils.